Lako is a certified financial planner who serves as a principal and managing director at Henssler Financial, a financial consulting and money management firm. Bill has 17 years of experience in the financial services industry, including advising on financial planning for divorce, and that's what we'll talk about today. So, Bill, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
Now, you recommend that in addition to an attorney, someone going through a divorce should also consider hiring a certified divorce financial analyst. So first, what is a CDFA and what is beneficial about having one in a divorce?
Well, a CDFA, Certified Divorce Financial Analyst, is basically somebody who has gone through a program that certifies them to deal with the financial planning issues that arise from a divorce. And the main reason why we generally recommend somebody use one is because the divorce process itself is a very emotional process. And generally the lawyers are involved, obviously trying to make sure that they're getting the best scenario for their client. But a lot of times the client is so driven by the emotions of the day that the financial matters sometimes get overlooked in terms of long-term planning. And so what we generally will do, the CDFAs that are on staff here, bring an unemotional approach to taking a look at the financial situations and determining, hey, look, is it really better for you to take the house, or is it better for you to take the pension, or, and run the ramifications, the cash flow projections and the tax scenarios and whatnot.
Sure. Now, you also recommend that someone going through a divorce should consider hiring a CPA. So yes. What's the biggest benefit to having a CPA, and then what's the difference between what a CPA would do and what a CDFA would do?
Well, generally, so a little shameless self-promotion, our firm has both CPAs and CFPs, CDFAs. The CPAs tend to look at tax matters today. And so when you're going through the divorce, they're going to take a look at, well, what's the ramifications of paying child support, alimony, property settlements today. Whereas the CDFA is going to say, look, if you do this 5 years from today, here's what's going to happen. And so I think the two work well together, both looking at the short term and the long term.
So finally, what would you say the biggest mistake someone can make concerning finances and divorce is, and how would you recommend they go about avoiding that blunder?
Well, the two biggest mistakes that I see, the first one is they let the emotions of the day get in the way of making a rational decision. And so, as you know, when you finalize the divorce, whatever you settled is pretty much going to be there for the rest of your life. And so making sure the plan is done up front unemotionally is probably the most significant scenario I've seen. We at our firm probably have gone through, I don't know, on average 10 divorces a year. And, you can see the fighting that goes on, over things that really don't have any impact long-term on your financial well-being. That's number one. Number two is not having a willingness to actually pay a professional for their advice. And so you hire the lawyer to make sure that you don't get taken advantage of while you're going through the divorce. But sometimes having financial professionals look over your shoulder and say, hey, if you make that mistake, that'll cost you 10 grand every year for the next 20 years. It's probably worth paying $500 or $600 for that advice.
Right. Well, actually, I do have one more thing.
Sure.
CDFA, the CPAs, are they only needed, only useful, beneficial for high net worth individuals, those with a lot of assets to divide?
No, well, certainly in that particular case, they're definitely needed. But I wouldn't say you have to have a lot of assets. Having somebody that can sit down and say, listen, there's a 401k plan with $150,000 in it, and you've got equity in your house of 150 grand. Well, we'll just split it. Well, that's not necessarily the right scenario if the person who's getting the house can't afford to stay in the house. And a lot of times, the legal profession is not necessarily providing that type of advice. Should you do this? Should you do that? As much as they're trying to argue out, the legal aspects of the divorce. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. No, I can follow it. Well, that's all I had for you. Thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.